Shockingly high levels of cancer-causing toxins in the blood of North Georgia residents. It is all confirmed by a study just done, one that was prompted by Atlanta News First investigator Andy Parati. You're listening and watching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm joined with Andy Parati. Good to have you, Andy.
Glad to be here.
Tell us about this story. This is something that you've been reporting on for several years, and you're finally getting some answers.
Yeah, so this story was prompted after after the state identified higher levels of PFAS in drinking water than in many parts of the country. For years, residents were drinking this water laced with PFAS. No one bothered to ask, how did this impact residents? In 2023, we tested some residents' blood. Emory University saw the results of that testing that we did, and this month, Emory University released its exposure study results revealing exactly what you said, elevated levels of PFAS in nearly 200 residents' blood.
Dear Alvin Jackson, thank you for participating in the Emory University North Georgia PFAS study.
It's a letter of gratitude from Emory University, but Alvin Jackson wishes it was addressed to someone else.
If you're concerned about your results, please contact your healthcare provider because, it scares me to death.
It's blood test results, part of a chemical exposure study Alvin took part in this past February, testing 177 residents for PFAS who live in Rome and Calhoun, Georgia, a toxin linked to numerous illnesses, including cancer. Alvin's results among the highest of all the participants. 2 nanograms per milliliter and below are considered safe. Alvin's blood, 141. How does it make you feel that you have these chemicals in your blood right now?
It makes me feel mighty bad. I wish it had been discovered sooner. Does it make my life shorter? Does it make me vulnerable to disease?
Alvin isn't the only one with elevated levels. Emory's study released this month revealed nearly a quarter of all participants with PFAS levels so high, the National Academies of Scientists suggest getting additional medical evaluations, testing for cancer, hypertension, and thyroid disease. 76% of the participants with levels that could harm sensitive groups like children and pregnant women.
They know that they have a chemical in their body they can't get rid of, and that's problematic.
Dr. Dana Barr and Melanie Pearson are the Emory scientists who led this study. If you were a city leader or a state leader looking at these results in these two communities, would you be concerned?
I would look for ways to try and reduce the exposure in these communities, definitely.
I'm ready.
Sarah Malone donated her blood for the study, too. The Rome resident is a breast cancer survivor. Her PFAS levels also among the highest of the participants. Are you now wondering whether PFAS had something to do with your cancer?
Most definitely so. Most definitely so. But this has really hit home, and we really need to get on top of this.
While Emory's study did not focus on how residents were exposed, multiple pending lawsuits place blame on carpet manufacturers for treating their products with PFAS for decades and then discharging it into rivers cities use for drinking water. The companies have denied those claims.
And what we found is that when you drank tap water, you tended to have higher exposure than if you drank bottled water or water that was filtered in the refrigerator.
Emory's study was in direct response to an Atlanta News First investigation nearly 2 years ago that found elevated levels of PFAS in residents' blood, including Alvin. It was the first known attempt to measure the impact on people since regulators discovered the toxin in North Georgia nearly 10 years ago. Dr. Barr spoke to the participants after publishing the results. Meeting them and hearing their concerns in that room.
Doesn't this make you mad?
Well, yeah, it does.
Do you think that was the thing that compelled you to take action?
Yeah, I think when you understand that there are real people that are having to live with the consequences of industrial pollution, yeah, it really makes you angry, like it made participants angry.
Nobody ever thought about it until you did those tests. And that sort of opened up the door to finding out how many people are actually infected with these PFAS.
So what's next? That's the overwhelming question from participants who had elevated levels in their blood. First, schedule an appointment with your doctor to inform them about your results. Also, reduce your exposure like personal care products, makeup, and pesticides, and drink bottled water. Lastly, reach out to city and state leaders to advocate for change, like increased regulation and additional funding for more studies. Andy Parati, Atlanta News First, investigates.
So, Andy, as you've already mentioned, you've been reporting on this for several years. So many of us watching or listening might be thinking, what took so long to get to this point in the study?
Yeah, science takes time. And to be clear, what we did when we tested those residents' blood in 2023 was not a scientific study. We just wanted to test to see what the results were. And when I shared the results to Emory University and two other scientists at the time, they all said, based on the results of this very small sample, that more testing needed to be done. I was so grateful that Dr. Dana Barr from Emory University at that time, she agreed to talk to the residents about the results, and it all happened very coincidentally. She was already planned to travel to visit family in Nashville, like the same weekend that we were going to be up there. And I said, "Hey, would you be willing to stop on your way to visit family in Nashville to talk to these residents about their sample results at that time?" And I think this is the moment where she realized that more needed to be done, because when she saw the concern and saw the faces of the participants, especially those who had elevated levels of blood in our small sample, and their concern, she immediately, within just a few weeks after that, said, you know what, we're going to apply for funding to get more answers for more people in this community. And that's exactly what she did. That happened, getting the funding was more than a year ago. And then the blood sample testing happened, I believe, in February of this year. And then finally, this month, we got the results. And all that happened as far as science timelines, that's very quick. We reached out to the Georgia Department of Public Health, by the way, and asking them to comment on these results, sharing exactly what Emory University told us, and they still won't comment on it because Emory University's results haven't been peer-reviewed yet. But Emory believes, obviously, that if they're releasing these results early before being peer-reviewed, they feel very confident in these results and obviously believe it is a public health issue.
So we have the answers now, but what do we do with them? I believe one of the days we ran this story, there was a town hall for people to talk about what's happening in their community. But what happens next here?
So the residents with elevated levels, there's actually recommendations depending on where your number lies, and all of the participants receive this information, and this is in our web story, that if your numbers are a certain level, there's additional health screenings that's recommended for certain types of conditions, whether it be high cholesterol, thyroid issues, even cancer screenings. So there's actually some recommendations. You can't remove it from the blood. There's not like, okay, I got this in my blood, I'm going to take a pill, it's going to be removed. That's not how those works. It takes several years for it to slowly dissipate from the blood. So the thing that goes through my mind is, if they were drinking this for decades, and we're seeing elevated levels in their blood, think about how high they may have been down the road. Rome, for instance, Rome, Georgia, has stopped using the same water source that had these high levels of PFAS. But what about the folks in Calhoun that also participated in the study, where they didn't have, they're not building at least not at the moment, maybe down the road, a new water system to remove this PFAS. There are multiple lawsuits pending in North Georgia representing landowners, property owners, families, and government counties that are trying to hold the carpet manufacturers accountable, and also the chemical makers that produced this for decades.
And obviously there's a batch of lawsuits, but in general, where do those stand? I would assume we're still early on in that process, so far out from some level of justice, or even assigning a jury to a civil case like this.
Yeah, these cases take a very long time. So all of them are still pending. The only one that actually ended in a settlement was the one a couple of years ago where the city of Rome sued the carpet manufacturers and some of the chemical makers. And we know that settlement, and of according to court documents and including even one of the carpet manufacturers, that we're looking at a $100 million settlement. So the families and the property owners that are dealing with pending lawsuits that were just filed over the past year, they're going to be waiting a significant amount of time. And they're trying to get as many people to participate, the law firm is trying to get as many people to participate as possible, even hiring Erin Brockovich to come and advocate. She's a longtime advocate, as you know, environmentalist that has sort of advocated for change and policy. And this, according to her, is close to her heart.
After we aired this story, we got a lot of emails directly to our newsroom. People just wondering, like, hey, is this happening in my community? Which begs the question, Andy, as we say at the end of each one of these, how can people get in contact with you directly if they got a story on environmental injustice, but also any other topic?
Yeah, so you can email me at andy.parati@wanf.com. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the things.
All the above. Well, thank you so much, Andy. We know you'll stay on top of this. We look forward to the rest of your reporting on this. You've been watching and listening to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. Be sure to watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.